Boxing is a sport of discipline, power, and focus. But outside the ring, even the greatest fighters can fall victim to personal battles, from Mike Tyson's infamous divorce, that led to financial ruin, to Floyd Mayweather's domestic violence charges that stained his legacy. These champions learned the hard way that love and scandal don't mix toxic relationships. Legal troubles and tragic endings turned their careers upside down, proving that sometimes the biggest fights happen outside the ring. Today, we uncover the dark side of boxing's greatest warriors. Tyson publicly accusing him of being abusive, unstable, and impossible to live. With the world watched in shock as Tyson sat silently humiliated as Gibbons painted a picture of a marriage filled with fear and violence. The fallout was catastrophic in 1989. Just 1 year after their wedding, their marriage ended in a messy public divorce. The split cost Tyson millions. In settlements, legal fees, and damage to his reputation. Suddenly, the same media that once celebrated him was now portraying him as a villain. Sponsors distanced themselves and his once unbreakable image as an unstoppable champion began to crumble. The accusations, financial losses, and emotional toll only added to the chaos that would later contribute to his infamous downward spiral. Looking back, Tyson himself admitted that his marriage to Robin Gibbons was one of the worst decisions of his life. He described it as toxic, destructive, and financially devastating. What was supposed to be a partnership turned into a media circus. And instead of finding stability, he found himself in one of the most painful and expensive chapters of his life. The experience left lasting scars, not just on his career, but on his personal life as well. Tyson would go on to face even greater struggles, including financial ruin, legal troubles, and a prison sentence. But many believe that the beginning of his downfall started with his marriage to Robin Gibbons, a relationship that not only cost him millions, but also shattered his reputation. It was a lesson in how even the most powerful men in the world can be brought down by personal turmoil. One man's show, you're going to talk, as you said, about a lot of personal stuff. Very famously in the 1980s. You were married to Robin Gibbons, and you are going to talk about the fact. And this is something I did not know, that after your divorce, you guys were still somewhat involved. Well, I don't know. We were just, during our crazy marriage, right? Where, I'm saying you're a thief, you're a gold digger, you're abusive, you'll beat me, leading into the next tragic love story in boxing history. Floyd Mayweather built his career on perfection, an undefeated record millions in earnings, and a reputation as one of the greatest boxers of all time. But outside the ring, his personal life was far from flawless. At the center of one of his biggest scandals was Josie Harris, his longtime girlfriend, and the mother of 3 of his children. What started as a passionate relationship quickly turned into a dark and troubling saga that would leave an irreversible stain on Mayweather's legacy. Mayweather and Harris had an on-again, off-again relationship for years, filled with both love and turmoil, while Mayweather showcased his extravagant lifestyle mansions, luxury cars, and endless stacks of cash. His private life was. Unraveling their relationship took a shocking turn in 2010. When Harris accused Mayweather of domestic violence, the brutal incident which allegedly took place in front of their children, led to Mayweather's arrest, and a conviction that shook the sports world. Despite his legal team's efforts, he was sentenced to 90 days in jail, a moment that tarnished his otherwise untouchable image. For a man who had spent his entire career dodging punches, this was one hit he couldn't avoid. The conviction, didn't just affect his reputation, it created a rift. Between him and the public, many questioned whether they could continue supporting a fighter with such a troubling history. Sponsors distanced themselves. Critics called for boycotts, and Mayweather's carefully crafted persona of invincibility began to crack, though he remained dominant in the ring. The incident remained a dark cloud over his career. Tragically, the story didn't end there. In 2020, Josie Harris was found dead in her car, outside her California home. The news sent shockwaves through the boxing community, reigniting conversations about the abuse allegations and the painful history between her and Mayweather, while her death was ruled as an accidental overdose. It cast an even darker shadow over the legacy of their relationship, despite his continued success and massive fortune. Mayweather's personal life remains a reminder that even the richest and most powerful fighters cannot escape the consequences of their past. His career may have remained undefeated, but his reputation outside the ring suffered a loss. He could never recover from Oscar De La Hoya, was boxing's golden boy, an Olympic gold medalist, a multi-division world champion, and one of the most beloved fighters of his era, with his movie star, looks, charm, and undeniable talent. He was not only a boxing superstar, but also a celebrity in the mainstream world, and with fame came high-profile relationships. One of his most publicized romances was with Shanna Moakler, a former Miss USA and actress. What started as a glamorous love story quickly turned into a handle that would leave De La Hoya humiliated on a national stage. De La Hoya and Moakler began dating in the late 90s, becoming one of the most talked about couples in sports and entertainment. They seemed like the perfect match. Young, beautiful, and successful. In 1999, they welcomed their daughter Atiana, and fans believed that De La Hoya had found stability outside the ring. But behind the picture, perfect moments, cracks in, their relationship were forming as De La Hoya's career soared, his personal life started to spiral, and his commitment to Moakler and their family came into question. Then came the moment that shattered their relationship in the most public way possible. In 2000, Moakler was watching the Latin Grammy Awards, expecting to see De La Hoya there as her partner. Instead, she saw him on live television, arm in arm with another woman. The betrayal played out for the world to see, leaving Moakler, devastated, humiliated, and furious. Their breakup became tabloid fodder, with Moakler suing De La Hoya for $62.5 million in palimony, claiming he had abandoned her and their daughter. But the damage didn't stop there. After his split from Moakler, De La Hoya spiraled into a battle with addiction, later admitting to substance abuse that nearly destroyed him. He struggled with alcohol and drugs, leading to embarrassing leaked photos of him wearing women's lingerie. Images that tarnished his once flawless image. The golden boy, once seen as boxing's clean-cut role model, became a cautionary tale of how personal demons and failed relationships can derail even the most successful careers. Though De La Hoya eventually sought treatment and rebuilt his life as a boxing promoter, the scars of his past remain. His relationship with Moakler was just one chapter in a series of personal struggles that followed him throughout his post-boxing career. What was supposed to be a fairy tale romance ended in public disgrace, proving that even the biggest stars can fall from grace when their personal lives spiral out of control. Arturo Gatti was a warrior in the ring, known for his fearless style, relentless heart, and unforgettable battles. He was a fan favorite, a blood and guts fighter who left everything inside the ropes. But outside the ring, his life was marked by chaos, drama, and ultimately tragedy. his relationship with Amanda Rodriguez was no different. What started as a passionate romance ended in one of boxing's most mysterious and heartbreaking stories. Gotti met Amanda Rodriguez, a Brazilian model, in 2006. Their relationship moved quickly, and by 2007, they were married on the surface. They seemed to have it all: luxury vacations, a glamorous lifestyle, and a young son to complete their family. But behind closed doors, their relationship was volatile. Friends and family noticed frequent arguments, jealousy, and tension that seemed to grow worse over time. Gotti, once the pride of boxing, was struggling with personal demons, including allegations of substance abuse and emotional instability. Then in July 2009, the unthinkable happened on vacation in Brazil. Arturo Gotti was found dead in their hotel room. His body was discovered with a blood-stained purse strap around his neck, and his wife, Amanda Rodriguez, was quickly arrested as the prime suspect. Authorities initially ruled it a homicide, believing that Rodriguez had strangled Gotti in the midst of a heated argument. The boxing world was in shock. Had one of the sport's most beloved fighters been murdered by the woman he loved? But just weeks later, the case took a bizarre turn. Brazilian authorities reversed their decision, ruling Gotti's death. A suicide, Rodriguez was released from jail, and the case was closed. Despite widespread doubts and unanswered questions, many of Gotti's family members, fans, and former trainers refused to believe that he had taken his own life. Conspiracy theories swirled, and even today, the circumstances of his death remain one of boxing's greatest mysteries. Gotti's tragic end was the ultimate reminder that even the toughest fighters can be vulnerable outside the ring. His relationship with Rodriguez, filled with turbulence and uncertainty, may have played a role in his downfall while he was a warrior between the ropes. He was a troubled man in his personal life, one whose story ended far too soon. His death left behind not just a grieving family and heartbroken fans, but a lingering question. Was it really suicide? Or was there something more sinister behind the tragedy? James Kirkland was a knockout artist, one of the most feared punches in boxing. His raw power, relentless aggression, and his explosive fighting style made him a rising star. But while Kirkland could destroy opponents in the ring, his greatest downfall came outside of it. His toxic relationship with his then-girlfriend not only derailed his career, but also led him down a path of legal trouble and wasted potential. Kirkland's rise in boxing was fast and furious, with a string of knockout victories. He was on the verge of superstardom. But behind the scenes, his personal life was filled with drama, bad decisions, and the influence of the wrong people, including his girlfriend, who played a major role in his downfall. Their relationship was volatile, filled with legal troubles, bad influences that kept him from reaching his full potential. His biggest mistake came in 2009 when he was arrested for illegal firearm possession. His girlfriend at the time was involved in the case, further complicating the situation. The arrest resulted in Kirkland being sentenced to 2 years in prison, devastating blow that halted his career just as he was gaining momentum while other fighters were securing world titles. Kirkland was behind bars, watching his dreams slip away. After serving his time, Kirkland attempted to make a comeback, but the damage had already been done. He struggled to regain his former dominance, suffering setbacks both in and out of the ring. His relationship troubles continued to follow him, and his inability to stay disciplined outside of boxing made it impossible for him to maintain success. He would go on to have sporadic fights, but the promise of his early career was never fulfilled. For many boxing fans, James Kirkland will always be remembered as a what-if story. A fighter with the talent to become a world champion, but whose personal life got in the way. His relationship with bad decisions and legal troubles played a major role in derailing his once promising career. While other fighters found stability and success, Kirkland found himself trapped in a cycle of mistakes that he could never fully escape. Shannon Briggs was a powerhouse in the ring. A two-time heavyweight champion known for his devastating knockouts, relentless pressure, and larger-than-life personality. His signature catchphrase, "Let's go champ," became a rallying cry for fans around the world, but behind the confident persona and the championship belt is a man struggling with personal demons, financial hardship, and a marriage pushed to the breaking point. Briggs had it all: fame, money, and a career that spanned decades. But after suffering multiple setbacks in boxing, his financial situation crumbled. The money he had earned from fighting quickly disappeared due to poor investments, bad management, and personal struggles, with the weight of financial pressure on his shoulders. His marriage to his longtime wife, Alana Wilson, began to suffer the stress of providing for his family while dealing with the loss of his career. Took a toll on both his mental health and his relationship. At his lowest point, Briggs battled severe depression. The once vibrant and energetic fighter admitted that he had reached a breaking point, struggling to find his way outside the ring without boxing, without financial stability, and with a strained marriage. He fell into a deep emotional and psychological spiral. His confidence was shattered, and his family life was in jeopardy, for a fighter who had spent his career proving his toughness. This was a battle he never expected to face. But Briggs wasn't ready to give up. He fought his way out of depression, using his struggles as motivation to inspire others. He became an advocate for mental health awareness, speaking openly about his hardships and how they affected both his marriage and his personal life. Though his relationship with his wife endured serious challenges, they worked through the struggles together, proving that even in the face of adversity, resilience and love can keep a family strong. Shannon Briggs' story is a reminder that even the toughest fighters can be knocked down by life. His struggles with financial ruin, depression, and relationship troubles nearly broke him. But instead of staying down, he found the strength to fight back while his boxing career had its highs and lows. His greatest victory may have been overcoming the battles that took place outside the ring. Adrian Bronner was once considered the future of boxing, a multi-division champion with lightning-fast hands, knockout power, and the swagger to match. He modeled himself after Floyd Mayweather, embracing the flashy lifestyle, expensive cars, and high-profile relationships. But while Broner had the talent to dominate the sport, his personal life was a never-ending cycle of controversy, legal trouble, and relationship drama that ultimately derailed his once promising career. Bronner's relationships were as chaotic as his life in and out of the ring. Over the years, he was linked to multiple women, often flaunting his love life on social media. But behind the extravagant displays of affection, his relationships were filled with turmoil. Public arguments, cheating allegations, and domestic disputes became regular headlines rather than focusing on maintaining his dominance in boxing. Bronner's name was often associated with scandal. His most damaging issue, news came in the form of legal trouble. On multiple occasions, Broner was arrested on charges related to domestic violence and assault, often involving disputes with his partners, instead of staying disciplined and focused on training. He found himself in courtrooms, facing allegations that tarnished his image. His erratic behavior, both in his personal life and in the public eye, made it difficult for promoters and sponsors to support him. Jermall Charlo built his reputation as a fierce and undefeated world champion, dominating opponents with his power and skill, inside the ring. But outside of boxing, his personal life has been far more turbulent. While Charlo's career should have been defined by his title defenses and legacy in the sport, it has instead been overshadowed by legal troubles, including allegations of domestic violence that have put his future in jeopardy. Charlo has always been known for his confidence and aggressive fighting style, but that intensity seemed to follow him outside the ring as well. In 2023, the boxing world was shaken when news broke of Charlo's arrest on charges related to domestic violence. The accusations painted a dark picture as he was alleged to have assaulted a family member, leading to legal consequences that put his career at risk. The incident shocked fans and raised serious concerns about his personal life before his arrest. Charlo was already facing criticism for his behavior outside the ring. His outspoken personality, heated confrontations, and erratic public appearances had drawn attention, but nothing compared to the fallout from his legal troubles. The allegations not only damaged his reputation, but also caused tension with sponsors, promoters, and even boxing organizations. As a world champion, he had the potential to solidify himself as one of the best fighters of his generation. But his personal issues quickly became a major distraction. The legal battle surrounding his domestic violence case forced Charlo to take a step back from boxing instead of preparing for title defenses and securing big money fights. He was dealing with court dates and public scrutiny. While some fans remained supportive, others questioned whether his career could recover from the scandal in a sport where discipline and focus are everything. Charlo's personal life was proving to be his biggest obstacle. The impact of his arrest extended beyond his career, with domestic violence being a serious issue. In professional sports, many believed that Charlo's actions could result in long-term consequences, including potential bans or loss of endorsements. The incident also raised concerns about his future. Would he be able to rebuild his career? Or would his personal demons keep him from reaching his full potential? Germinal Charlo's story serves as yet another reminder that no amount of talent can protect a fighter from the consequences of their personal choices. His legal troubles have cast a shadow over his achievements, leaving fans wondering if he will ever reclaim his place at the top. One thing is clear. His biggest fight is no longer in the ring, but in his own personal life. Carlos Munoz was one of the greatest middleweight champions in boxing history, an Argentinian icon who ruled the ring with power, precision, and an iron will his dominance stretched. Over a decade, with an undefeated streak that cemented his legacy as one of the sport's all-time greats. But outside the ring, Monzon's life was marked by violence, controversy, and ultimately tragedy. His turbulent relationship with his wife, Alicia Muniz, ended in the most horrifying way possible: murder. Monzon was known for his aggressive and fiery personality traits that made him a feared opponent in the ring. However, that same intensity led to a history of violent behavior outside the sport. His relationships were often filled with jealousy arguments and physical abuse, with several reports of domestic violence over the years. His fame and status often shielded him from consequences, but his temper would eventually catch up with him in the worst possible way. In 1988, Monzon's dark side took a fatal turn after a heated argument with his wife, Alicia Muniz, at their home in Argentina. Monzon brutally attacked her before throwing her off a balcony, to her death the crime shocked the entire country, turning a national hero into a criminal overnight. The former champion, who once stood at the pinnacle of boxing, was now facing murder charges with no way to fight his way out of this one. During his trial, Monzon showed little remorse, further damaging his public image, despite his legendary status in the sport. The evidence against him was overwhelming, and in 1989, he was sentenced to 11 years in prison for homicide. It was a stunning downfall for a man who had once been adored by millions. The man who had conquered the boxing world was now behind bars, his legacy permanently stained by the horrific act of violence. Even in prison, Monzon remained a controversial figure. Though he was granted occasional releases for good behavior, many believed he never fully paid for his crimes. But fate had its own punishment in store. In 1995, while on a temporary release from prison, Monzon was killed in a car accident. His death at age 52 marked the tragic end of a life that had been defined by both greatness and destruction. Carlos Munoz's story is one of the most chilling in boxing history. He had everything: fame, fortune, and legendary status. But his violent nature cost him everything. His legacy, once built on championship glory, will forever be overshadowed by the brutal murder of his wife. It serves as a haunting reminder that no amount of success in the ring can erase the consequences of one's actions. Outside of it, Juan Mendoza Lopez was once one of Puerto Rico's brightest boxing stars. A two-division world champion with knockout power and an aggressive fighting style that made him a fan favorite. Lopez was no stranger to controversy, but in 2021, his personal life became headline news for all the wrong reasons. His ex-partner, Andrea O'Hara, accused him of domestic violence, detailing shocking allegations of physical abuse. She took to social media to expose the fighter, releasing photos, messages, and recordings that painted a disturbing picture of their relationship. The allegations sent shockwaves through the boxing world, putting Lopez in the center of a scandal that threatened to overshadow his entire career. Following the accusations, Lopez was arrested and charged with multiple counts of domestic abuse. The case quickly became a national scandal in Puerto Rico, with fans divided on whether to support the fallen champion or condemn his actions. Sponsors distanced themselves, and boxing promoters hesitated to work with him, as the sport faced increasing pressure to take a stand against domestic violence for Lopez, who was already past his prime in the ring. The controversy marked the final nail in the coffin of his once promising career. Lopez initially denied the allegations, but as evidence mounted against him, his situation became more difficult to escape the legal battle, consumed his life, making a return to boxing nearly impossible. Once a hero in Puerto Rico, he became a symbol of disgrace. His championship reign now overshadowed by his personal failings, even as he attempted to clear his name. The damage had been done. His reputation, his career, and his legacy were in ruins. Juan Manuel Lopez had all the tools to be remembered as one of Puerto Rico's greatest fighters, but his actions outside the ring ensured that his name would forever be linked to scandal, instead of being celebrated for his achievements. He is now another cautionary tale of a boxer whose personal demons destroyed everything he had built. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. was born into boxing royalty as the son of the legendary Julio Cesar Chavez. Senior expectations were sky high. From the moment he laced up his gloves early in his career, he showed flashes of brilliance, winning a world title and proving that he had the skills to carry on his father's legacy. But while talent was never the issue, his lack of discipline, personal struggles, and turbulent relationships ultimately led to his downfall. Throughout his career, Chavez Jr. was plagued by accusations of laziness, lack of focus, and an inability to stay committed to the sport. But his troubles didn't stop at boxing. his personal life was just as chaotic. His relationship with his longtime partner, Frida Munoz, became the subject of controversy, with rumors of infidelity, partying, and substance abuse. Constantly making headlines rather than providing stability, his personal life became yet another distraction that kept him from reaching his full potential. In recent years, Frida has publicly spoken about the difficulties of being with Chavez Jr., revealing his battles with addiction, erratic behavior, and lack of commitment to his family in multiple interviews. She hinted that his lifestyle choices, partying, excessive drinking, and substance use, had taken a serious toll on their relationship, and his career photos and videos of Chavez Jr. appearing intoxicated, engaging in bizarre behavior, and even skipping training sessions only added to the concerns that he was spiraling out of control. Chavez Jr.'s struggles eventually led to legal issues, and family turmoil reports surfaced of his partner exposing his reckless lifestyle, forcing his father, the great Julio Cesar Chavez Sr., to step in and publicly express his disappointment. The elder Chavez even admitted to trying everything to help his son, including sending him to rehab, but nothing seemed to work. The once promising fighter had become an example of wasted potential with his relationships and bad habits, keeping him from ever reclaiming his status in the sport. For many, Chavez Jr. represents one of the biggest what-if stories in boxing. He had the name, the talent, and the opportunities to become one of the sport's greats. But his personal choices and toxic relationships led him down a path of underachievement. Instead of following in his father's footsteps, became a symbol of lost potential, proving that even the most gifted fighters can be defeated not by an opponent in the ring, but by their own demons outside of it.